guys, welcome to Faithful Friday. For all our new visitors, this is Faithful Friday where we have a Bible book club. And for all you returning subscribers, welcome back. We are in chapter 36 of Genesis. Now, before we get started, I wasn't on last week, Friday. So we're kind of a week behind, but we'll be able to catch up pretty much. The book of Exodus is pretty much what everybody looks at Easter time, the story of Moses. So we should be able to breeze through that pretty quickly and break that book down fairly easy. Please excuse me, I'm in my robe. I am in the living room. I'm getting work done in the house and I'm not where I normally sit and everything else. So, and as well as tired, you can see it. But this is Faithful Friday and I'm going to be faithful to the Word of God. So let's get right to it. Okay, in Genesis chapter 36, it starts with the genealogy of Esau and the Edomites. I'm about to say Edomites, but the Edomites. It's detailing their descendants and the land that they occupy. So that's pretty much, it's going down through the lineage in Genesis chapter 36. So the story actually begins in chapter 37. Sometimes we skip over chapters where it's just going through the lineage, but I just thought to give a quick overview of that. But in chapter 37 is where Jacob favors his son Joseph. He favors his son Joseph. It says that he favors his son Joseph, and he made his son Joseph a coat of many colors. With him favoring his son Joseph, it made his other siblings jealous of Joseph. So they acted in their jealousy by retaliating against Joseph. And this story in the Bible, I really can relate to this story in the Bible to my own family. I had 3 brothers and 1 sister. And my brothers and my siblings, as well as myself, would always pretty much say that my middle brother was my mom's favorite. And my 2 brothers tend to, feel some type of way about it. Now, they never reacted or acted as Joseph's siblings did, but it was rival between them. So I can pretty much relate to that in today's time of where parents will favor one kid over another. They'll say they don't do that, but they do. I can't say that I was favored, but my mother always tended to see after everyone else, and it was like when I was in need, I was very independent. So I didn't need her for a lot of things, but certain things that I went through in my life, I was thinking that she would be there or would be there. And I thank God that I was able to talk to her before her passing to be able to tell her how I felt about that and everything. And I feel better about that situation at this point. But this story relates to a lot of things in my life. This part of Genesis, and just starting off from the beginning in chapter 37, his brothers sell him into slavery in Egypt. They wanted to kill him, but one of the brothers kind of talked them into throwing him into a ditch. But then they took him out the ditch and they sold him. And the brother that talked them into throwing him into the ditch, he was going to go back and get him. However, they sold him into slavery. And then they took the coat that Jacob made for him, which is his father, and dipped it in animal's blood and basically stated that he was killed by an animal. And they let their father believe that his son was killed. Now, this relates a lot with the cliche that people say, what people meant for harm, God will turn it around for your good. That is this story in a nutshell, pretty much. It's pretty much they meant harm against him. They wanted him gone. They was trying to kill him, but they just sold him into slavery. Just long as he went away, that's what they wanted. And although he had trials, tribulations, he still triumphed over all of them in the end. But just getting ahead of myself, let me go back to it. Yeah, they sold him into slavery, and pretty much initially they was plotting to kill him. And that's what encompasses chapter 37. Now in chapter 38, it kind of goes into the story of Judah's interaction with Tamar, his daughter-in-law, who deceives him with her rights. And she bears 2 twins. She basically deceived him so she could get pregnant. And that's pretty much what goes on in chapter 38. And then in 39, it switches back to Joseph. Now, by this time, Joseph is in Potiphar's home. He rises to a top position within Potiphar's house. And like another cliche that they use, or pretty much not a cliche, I don't know if it's the exact words of what I'm saying is in the Bible, but your gift will make room for you. And this part of the story basically exemplifies that. His gift made room for him. He could interpret dreams. And this is what he did, which got him into high-ranking positions. So at this point, he's pretty much over Potiphar's house, running it. But as always, is something. So Potiphar's wife is favoring Joseph, and she wants to go with him, but he won't go with her. So because he won't go with her, she made up a lie. Now, she tried to entice him, and he came out of his coat running away from her. So she took the coat and she lied and basically said that he came on to her. And instead of them getting to the bottom of it, they imprisoned Joseph falsely. So he's now in prison at the end of chapter 39. Now, moving into Genesis chapter 40, while Joseph is in prison, he interprets dreams. He interprets the dream of the cupbearer and the baker of Pharaoh. Now, and I'm trying to get it right. The cupbearer, he was going to be restored to his position. That's what the interpretation was for his dream. But the baker was going to be killed within 3 days. And exactly what Joseph interpreted the dreams as is exactly what happened. The baker was killed within the 3 days, and the cupbearer was restored back to his position. Now, one of the things that Joseph asked the cupbearer to do was not to forget him once he was restored back to his position in Pharaoh's house. However, when the cupbearer got restored, he did forget about Joseph. He didn't think nothing about him. And you can liken that to today. People will use you for what they need to use you for, or you can help them. And then when you're in need, they're nowhere to be found. They're not coming to help or whatever. Or they'll say, I'll look out for you, or I'll come back for you, or whatever, and they gone. So pretty much that's happening in today's times. So Joseph is still in prison. And now Pharaoh has trouble in dreams. He's having dreams now. And he's like upset with all of the staff and everybody. I'm just paraphrasing. He's upset with everybody because he's having these dreams and he can't get any sleep, but it's no one to interpret the dreams. So they're kind of like scared that he's going to go off the rails again. So what happens is the cupbearer remembers Joseph and stated, well, I know somebody that can interpret the dreams, and when I was in prison, he tell the whole nine and tell the whole story and everything. And they like, okay, go get him. So he came and he told Pharaoh what the dream was. And the dream was pretty much is that they were going to have 7 years of good times, like plenty of food, plenteous of everything, of food and everything. And then it was going to be 7 years of famine. So with Joseph giving him a heads up, Joseph became the governor and moved up into a high-ranking position once again. As I stated, your gift will make room for you. And that's exactly what his gift was doing, was making room for him. And he did acknowledge that that gift came from God, because he said God would interpret those dreams. It really wasn't him, it was God giving him what those dreams were. And he ended up saving Pharaoh a lot of, well, it wasn't money in those times or anything, but, well, people were. I don't know if they was trading cattle or animals or whatever it was, but people during the famine was coming to get food from Egypt during the 7 years of the famine. But they had plenty of food, because what they did is they stored up food during the 7 years when they had, because they already knew that the famine was coming. So they pretty much had success during those 7 years of famine. And that was thanks to Joseph interpreting that dream for Pharaoh. So in the midst of all of this, Joseph's brothers are now in need. His whole family is, because they're in the midst of the famine. And the father tells the brothers to go to Egypt because they stated that it was food there. So they go with money to purchase food. And They go to Egypt to purchase food, not not even recognizing their brother, which is the governor. He recognized them right away, but they didn't recognize him. Now they went to Egypt without the youngest brother, Benjamin. I believe his name was Benjamin. Yeah, I think yes, his brother name was Benjamin. I'm looking at my notes. His brother name was Benjamin. So they didn't take Benjamin, but the rest of the brothers went. So they still didn't know that that was Joseph, even with him asking all these questions. He asked about their father. He asked about, did they have any other siblings? He asked all these different questions, and they were just answering the questions, and they paid for their food. He was calling them spies, and he was trying to like test them and see what they were going to do. And they wasn't, rude or trying to go against anything. They just were trying to explain themselves and say that they weren't spies. He ended up giving them back all of their money along with the food. However, he kept one of the brothers there and told them to go get the other brother, the youngest brother, Benjamin. So that leads into chapter 43, where he's telling them to go get the brother and return back with the youngest brother, Benjamin. So they go back. They tell their father what's going on, tell him that they think that they're spies and they need to take the youngest son. So it was a little back and forth a little bit, but eventually he went on ahead and let the son Benjamin go. Later throughout the chapter of 43, Joseph does reveal who he is to the brothers after testing them. He plants a silver cup in Benjamin's sack to test the brothers. And Judah offers himself as a slave in Benjamin's place, in place of the younger brother. So the older brother stepped up to take the place of the younger brother, which shows a redemption, how they were once against Joseph and at odds with him. It was almost like they learned a lesson of sticking together, and he wasn't going to let the youngest brother take the fall. He was going to step up in his place and be a slave for his brother. So with Joseph seeing that, Joseph revealed who he was, and he forgave his brothers for what they did to him, because pretty much what they meant for harm, as I stated, it turned around for their good, and they had to come to him. Now, this is a part that I forgot initially in the beginning. Another reason why they got upset and mad at him is because Joseph had dreams. He had 2 dreams, if I'm not mistaken, 2 dreams. And they were interpreted that basically that the brothers would be like submitting to him or submissive to him. And they were already jealous. So that even wanted them to get rid of him even the more. But that truly did come to pass. And like the word of God says, that he will prepare a table before your enemies. And pretty much at first, although they were brothers, they were his enemy. They were plotting and planning against him initially. And he ended up forgiving them for what they did to him. And he invited his family to come and live with him in Egypt during the famine. So his family benefited off of something that they did to him, to harm him. But God turned it around for his good and still blessed them all in the end. So this was like a redemption story, a story of forgiveness, of forgiving people that have did wrong things against you. it took a lot for, I feel, for Joseph to forgive them, because although God put him in high ranking positions and he ended well, he went through a lot. He was falsely accused by Potiphar's wife. He didn't sleep with that lady. He didn't do anything to her, but yet they threw him in prison. Just being away from his family, period. When they sold him into slavery. So he got put into slavery for no reason. And sold into slavery for a few little pennies. But whatever the money or whatever they got for it still didn't sustain them, because they ended up coming to Egypt to try to get food and things there. So they were being affected by the famine. So just this story alone really touched home for me in a lot of areas, especially in the fact of being able to forgive people that have did wrong things against you. That's showing the fruits of the Spirit. One of the fruits of the Spirit, just having long suffering, patience, love for people. You have to have all of those different things to truly be able to forgive someone. Trying to stay in chronological order. Okay, so Jacob, reassured by God, travels to Egypt with his family. And then the chapter lists the descendants who came with him. So Jacob ended up coming to Egypt with Joseph during the time of the famine, and bringing, his sons, the rest of his sons, and whoever else came to come and stay during the famine time. So Joseph continued in chapter 47. Joseph continued to manage the famine effectively, gaining control over the land of Egypt and providing for his family. So once his family was there, he was still controlling and handling everything. Like I said, they stored up over the 7 years. So during the 7 years of the famine, they had plenty, and they were able to sell food, and people were coming from all over to purchase food from them. So during chapter 48, Jacob blesses Joseph's sons, placing his right hand on Ephraim, the younger one, indicating a preference that surprised Joseph. So pretty much I'm going to end that chapter with those chapters right there. Pretty much. And let me see. I wanted to just bring out some key points here. Trying to get my notes and everything back together. I cannot believe that we are out of Genesis. Genesis is like one of the longest chapters. I did not know it was that many stories packed in Genesis alone. Because, just a quick recap of Genesis. A recap of it. Like, what? Recapping is the story of Adam and Eve, then the story of Cain and Abel, the story of Noah, the story of Abraham and Lot, and now the story of Jacob and his sons. So, yeah, that's quite a bit of stories that was in Genesis. So we will be moving right along, and we'll be going into the book of Exodus, and we will start that next week. I still have like so many notes and stuff on the book of Genesis, just of different things that I pulled and got out of it. Let me see. That's Ephesians. I was jumping all over the place, but then I kind of thought that we need to go in chronological order with how we're reading the book, due to the fact that the Bible and the people in the Bible during those times had more than one name, or God would change their name. So you could be reading a chapter down, say, in Ruth or something, and the person name was something before then and it's something else. If you go in order, you can kind of keep track of what name changed to what or whatever, versus jumping and skipping and jumping all over, because it's a little more confusing. So I thought to just do it in order. Now, one of the things that I pulled out was the wives of Jacob, Leah and Rachel. And I think I did talk about that before, but as you can see, I have notes here of where I did a whole sheet of notes. Just the rivalry between Leah and Rachel. It drives much of the narrative, illustrated themes of love, jealousy, and family dynamics. Jacob, eventually prosperity leads to his return to Canaan with his family, fulfilling God's promise to him. So, yeah, I have just quite a bit of notes that I take and write down. I even have handwritten notes. You can see my handwritten notes. I even had down some of my grocery lists on it as well. Yeah. But that is the book of Genesis, you guys. And as I stated, next week, Friday, I don't know if that's Halloween or not. I'm not really sure, but I will check. But next week, we'll be starting in the book of Exodus. I'm not sure. I'm looking at my notes right now so I can kind of tell you what chapters we'll be going over in the book of Exodus for next week. And please know, I will have the audio of the Bible for the book of Exodus up this week. This week I will have it up. And okay. So I'm trying to see how many chapters. Because we're supposed to be doing this for like an hour, and I'm just now about to reach 30 minutes. So we can cover a little bit more chapters. However, I try to keep them short because I know people have work and a lot of different things that they do during the week, and they may not be able to get that many chapters in. But so we can still... Please excuse me. So we can still go over some chapters, I do it to where it's not as many. But I like to do it at a good cutoff so we can pick right up at a good start. So the oppression of the Israelites is in Exodus 1. The birth and early life of Moses is in Exodus 2. The burning bush and Moses' call is in Exodus 3 and 4. I didn't even know that came that fast because I always think of the story of Moses by watching the 10th commandment. So, okay. And then the plague and Pharaoh's resistance is Exodus 5 through 12. So, I think we can do chapter 1 through 12. I'm doing that many chapters, 12 chapters, because I know it may be some people that don't know the book of Moses, but a lot of people know the book of Moses. You can basically, right off the top of your head, say what it is, because if anything, you've seen the 10th commandment at some point. So, yeah. So I think we will be able to breeze through chapters 1 through 12. So that'll give us a good stopping point, because when we pick up at chapter 13, we'll be at the Exodus and the Red Sea. So it'll be once they're freed and they're at the Red Sea at that point. So that'll be a good breaking point. So 1 through 12 for next week, Friday, you guys. And we're just 30 minutes in. So we got done with the book of Genesis. So I'm not going to go into any more in Exodus. We'll just pick up next week starting at chapter 1. And I will also have the audiobook uploaded for the book of Exodus. I believe it will be for the entire book of Exodus, because I don't think it's that many chapters. Well, no, it is quite a bit in here, but they pretty much go fast. And I don't know if I'm saying that they go fast due to the fact that I've watched the 10th commandment a gazillion times, so I know it. So, yeah. We may be able to do this in like 3 Fridays, and we'll be done with the book of Exodus. So I will make sure I get the audiobook up of that. Make sure you tune in and listen to that on your way to work or whatever, so you'll be able to chime in during our Bible book club. So that's it for tonight, guys. Thank you for tuning in to Faithful Fridays, and I will see you next week, Friday. Have a nice and safe weekend and a blessed one. Good night.